ANZAC Day is off in Melbourne, and it joins Australia Day as a casualty of all sorts of things to do with this coronavirus. Dr. Joe, I don't get it. You can still have the tennis on. If you've got a tennis racket, apparently you're allowed to wander the streets of Melbourne, literally. Not quite, but this is... How can you run a tennis match but you can't give a guarantee to ANZAC Day, which is still, as far as I can see, a couple of months away? There is something fundamentally adrift. Our values and our traditions are being caged up while things like, the tennis are allowed to continue.
Look, I think it is getting to a stage where, coronavirus is sometimes a bit of a cover almost. You can get away with a lot if you play the coronavirus card. And that is not to say, before everybody starts screaming, that it isn't a virus that affects people. But, as you said at the top of the hour, Gary, we haven't got that many cases in this country, and the average age of death is 82, which is the average life expectancy in this country. Professional tennis players are not essential workers. I mean, they're closing down gyms. People who want to exercise can't go to the gym to exercise. Care services, people getting their, for example, podiatry, people getting their nails done. There are a lot of services, I think, that are far more essential than people running around a tennis court for a lot of money. I don't begrudge them doing that. They're not the problem.
No,
the problem is that they are given an exemption. These, like we've had last year, Black Lives Matter protests are allowed to go ahead, others are not. Australia Day celebrations and marches were banned, but Invasion Day marches were allowed to go ahead. It's still 2 and a bit months to ANZAC Day. We don't really know where we're going to be. The cricket at the SCG, the Big Bash final last week, I think they had 25 or 30,000 people there. Surely one can have a similar number for ANZAC Day parades. I'm not sure these calls need to be made so early. And it does appear that if you have a woke cause, that the virus won't affect you, but if you have a more traditional cause or one that isn't celebrated by the left, then you get cancelled literally and metaphorically.
And James McGrath, that's the point. The woke left don't like these traditions. ANZAC Day is at the heart and soul of so many Australians. People, if we can't have the usual community gatherings, the one at Sunnybank here in Brisbane each year, got 3,500 people. It's huge. Last year, no one. I find that just awful. We want to get together and thank those who actually made it through their own personal effort, sacrifice, and everything they stand for, made it possible for us to have the freedom to discuss things like this. And yet we're told, no, that's disposable.
It is absolutely insulting how these governments, especially these Labor governments, are treating traditions of ours, important days like ANZAC Day, like Australia Day, as sort of disposable, throwaway Kleenexes, rather than trying to ensure that we commemorate these days. It is insulting to those who have served this country, it's insulting to their families, it's insulting to the rest of us. That if you do have some cause which allows you to put an armband on, regardless of the colour of the armband, yes, you can go out and you can have a grand old party in the street, but if you want to commemorate those who died for the freedoms that too many people in this country take for granted, oh, no. And I remind people watching this, last year here in Queensland, the Chief Health Officer banned, to begin with, a flyover of planes.
Yeah.
Banned planes flying over because of coronavirus. This is people, 10,000 feet in the air. Banned them flying over. This is what we're living in. It's the inconsistency that Joe talked about, that it is actually a war on what we hold dear. And it's Daniel Andrews, it's those left-wing councils down south who are using this to rub out what brings us together as Australians.
Bronwyn, I feel very passionate about it. I've never served Australia in uniform, but I'm in awe of everybody who has. The way in which these things are ripped away from us, it's weakening us as a society, and we've got to find a way to get government out of our lives. I want government to start committing to a way out of our lives, not constantly intruding and stopping us from doing the things that make us who we are as free people.
Well, Gary, you're absolutely spot on, and Joe and James also make excellent points. The point is this, that without the service and sacrifice that over 100,000 men who died in World Wars I and II, we would not be the free people we are today, talking about the
No, we
need
wouldn't be.
to protect us. If my dad had died in the war before I was born, I would never have been born, because that's the reality. There were so many families that were never born. So I'm grateful that he fought. I'm so grateful that he came home, like so many other families.
Yeah.
And every day of my life, I am grateful for his service and the service of the men who served with him on the front line, and women who served as well, that they gave me and my generation that great gift of freedom. And every ANZAC Day, that is so special to this nation that we absolutely revere it. But socialists hate everything that makes the culture of this country. They want the grand socialist international utopia, which means destroy everything that we've got and let theirs arise out of it. Like every other utopian dream, it always fails, and it always ends in tears, and it ends in aggression. And it doesn't matter whether it's Hitler's National Socialists or Stalin's communists or Mao Zedong's communists or Pol Pot's revolution. They all have the same ambition. And that's why we have to talk about it. That's why we have to say we've got so much to protect, and we owe so much to those people who have given us that gift. That to have Dan Andrews say you can have your Black Lives Matter marches and your Invasion Day marches, but no thanks for those people who have fallen, is just unconscionable. In New South Wales, there is going to be a march. Yeah. It'll be reduced in numbers. It'll only be 500, I understand. But we will still have a march. We will still revere the day, and those other ceremonies will go ahead. But there is this constant desire of socialists, which are Labor governments, to stop these traditional things that we hold dear, that knits our society together, holds us together in the things we hold precious. We must keep fighting for it.